Hey everybody, I'm Mr. Roboto. Welcome to my channel. Today I want to share with you the reasons why I collect comic books and how I came to collect them in the first place. And I'm doing this in response to a contest that is being sponsored by Reggie Simmons. I'll put a link to his YouTube channel in the description below. I urge you to go check out his channel if you haven't already. You'll love it if you love comic books. I guess, my love affair with comic books started when I was really young. And I'm pretty old right now, so it was a long time ago. I would go to like Goodwill stores and Salvation Army thrift stores with my mom and my sisters, and there would be old beat up comic books there that you could get for a penny. And I fell in love with DC comics as a kid. As I got older, I picked up Marvel comics, and I don't know if I read comic books because maybe I was a little bit lonely as a kid, or I was lonely as a kid because I read comic books. Because there were a lot of my friends at the time weren't into comic books. So it's a solitary, venture reading comic books, and comic books became my friends. And I took really good care of them. I put them in plastic bags. I didn't board them at the time. I didn't know about boards, but I knew about bagging, and I bagged them. And I kept them obsessively in good condition. And I wasn't doing that because I thought these comic books had any dollar value or would be worth anything other than these are my friends and I want to take good care of them. So, I would pull them out, look at them, reread them, admire the art, and enjoy the story. And I guess that's what drew me into comic books in the first place, was the art primarily. And second, it must be the fantastic people doing fantastic things, these superheroes that drew me in and probably drew us all into comic books. Unfortunately, when I went to college, I sold my comic books because back then, when you were a comic book nerd, that was not a good thing. Comic book nerds don't have the social cachet that they do nowadays, and it's frowned upon. So I sold my comic books, and I regret it to this day because I had some very, very good comic books in there. I had 2 mint copies or near mint copies of Uncanny X-Men 94. I remember to this day going to the drugstore, seeing Uncanny X-Men 94 on the spinner rack, and it was the most beautiful comic I had ever seen. And I bought it, I took it home, I read it again, and I went back the next week hoping the next issue would be out, and those books were still there in pristine condition. I bought a second one, and I had never done that before. I bought 2 copies, and if I had them today, yeah, they would be in 9.8 easy. I didn't know what 9.8 was back then. There was no grading, I don't think. But when I found out about those X-Men, I thought, what is this new X-Men, or the Uncanny X-Men Giant Size #1? I got to find that book. And back in those days, I was not aware of any comic book stores. Comic book stores weren't big. You get all your books at a drugstore, typically. If there were comic book stores, I was not aware of them. But there was a flea market I remember going to and seeing Giant Size X-Men #1 in a case for $10. And I thought, oh man, I'd never spent $10 on a comic book before. That's a lot of money. But I thought, no, I got to read about these characters, because back then they didn't have omnibus books. They didn't have any of that stuff. You had to go and get comic books somewhere, and usually it was at a flea market. So I put down my $10. I took that book home and read it. That was not in mint condition. It was used, but it was still pretty nice to have. But I sold those comic books for $100, one long box of comic books, and I should have known better. I was aware of comic book price guides, and I knew that people collected comic books and they had value. And I kind of knew that these X-Men books had some value, and I collected from 94 to, I believe, 150. Was when Cyclops left. That's when I left, and that's when I went off to college, so it was kind of appropriate to end it then. And I sold my books, and they offered me 75, and I said, no, I think these are worth more. They gave me 100. I was reluctant, but I was a college student. I needed the money. I wanted to get rid of the books. I took the money, and they conned me. And to this day, I'm a little bit bitter about it. But that's the way it goes. And I just recently picked up collecting comic books again, because I first started reading them, and then I thought, these seem to have some value, and I'm looking for issues that I'm missing, and I'm going to the store and I'm hunting it down, and I think I enjoy hunting them down. I enjoy the hunt. But this is interesting. The one thing I told myself, if I had owned a comic book before, I'm not going to get it. I'm not trying to recreate my comic book collection. I'm not going to get Uncanny X-Men 94. I'm not going to get Giant Size X-Men #1. I own those, and I own those in pristine conditions, and I'll be damned if I'm going to pay, $10,000, for 9.8 in either of those books. So I made a decision that I'm going to collect comic books that I have never owned, either as a kid or now. Most of my collection is modern. But I guess what I like about it, as I said, is the thrill of the hunt, going out there and finding books in the wild that have some value. Like the other day, I went out and I picked up this at the comic book store. Spider-Girl #1. It's the Women of Marvel series. And I got that for $8. I thought it was a pretty good price. I think I saw it online for like around 30-something. This is a book I had been wanting. I didn't have this as a kid. It's Marvel Premiere #28, Legion of Monsters. I also found this, and I did have this as a kid, but I broke down and bought this. I wanted it's Giant Size Annual Avengers #7. I got it for $20, and I thought, that's too good of a price to pass up. And of course, Thanos and all that, and I may just end up selling it. I thought the price was too good to pass up. I also found this yesterday, which was an Image catalog from January 2017. It was $1.99. And I got it because I saw that it had the premiere of God Country #1 in here. It's got a neat interview with Donny Cates. And, it premieres the book a little bit. And I saw somebody, they were asking like $25 online. I don't know if it's actually selling. I just bought it to have it because I don't have God Country #1. I've got like a second print. But it's just fun to find that kind of stuff. And that's what I love about the hunt. I also went to Half Price Books, and it appears somebody had turned in their Jock collection. Because I found this Grayson #1, which is the alternate cover, which is a Jock cover. Azrael #1, which is a Jock cover. Really neat cover. Azrael #3, again another Jock cover. Batman 643, which is a Jock cover, a Joker. And, this was $4, $2, $2, and $3. And then Half Price Books has their higher price books in a cabinet. I turned around and I saw this thing staring me in the face. And I thought, I've got one of those. And I got it at Half Price Books for $40. I had it cleaned and pressed, but it was water stained, and that water stain is never coming out. And I really wanted a better copy, so I found this one for $100. It says that it's got a slight little bump on the top right corner that can be pressed out. Otherwise, this book is probably a book I'm going to have graded and slabbed. It's really, really beautiful, and I'll pay $100 for this book all day. It's so rare, hard to find, and you know, the endorphin rush, the high I got when I saw this book, you know, is what I think makes it worth it for me. You know, getting a great book that you want, that you've been looking for, and getting it at a great price. You know, there's nothing like that feeling. And that's what I think probably I like most about collecting now, is not just having these books of great works of art, great stories, but finding books at a good value and adding them to my collection is a thrill, and that's why I collect comic books. Thanks for watching.